Okay. Hello, everyone. Happy New Year. Hopefully you can hear me and see me and hear me. Hey, Krister is going to listen while they draw their daily room for Dungeon 23. Awesome, Krister. Good luck with that. Samuel Bunkley. Hello, Samuel. Says for Dungeon 23, am I doing every month as a floor? Well, I'm not technically doing Dungeon 23. Oh, yeah. First of all, Happy New Year, Perkins. Happy New Year. Happy New Year, everybody. Krister can answer for himself in the chat. I'm not doing Dungeon 23, but I am doing some other things. Some, I guess I'm gonna call it related things. Let me pull up. Hold on a minute. I will pull it up since I did post it in the chat the other day. So actually, I got a couple things. Let's just get it. Let's just get my links sorted. But one of the things I have done, you could do this. Your miles may vary. I set up this jam on itch called #FinishIt23, which is good for me. Finishing is hard. Finishing is very hard for me. I'll pick up stuff that's ambitious. I'll get into it, and then they'll slowly drain away. I'll have a hard time getting it across the finish line. I didn't want to start something else, Dungeon 23, that would also be very ambitious and probably suffer the same fate as lots of other things that I've done. I want to finish things, and I have stuff that I desperately need to finish. So I started a jam with a hashtag called FinishIt23, which basically is just, hey, get whatever it is you're working on, and I'll post this link in the chat. Whatever it is you're working on, finish it. Post it. Right, and that's important. I know that and Dungeon 23 is going to mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. For some people, it is just a writing prompt to help you get your mind going, which is great. Just help get in that rhythm of writing, journaling, free writing, all that stuff that is known to. I mean, I think it's established that doing these things will help you creatively kind of get in the flow, do stuff, which is awesome. Other people are approaching it as, hey, I'm going to actually finish something out of it. It's not just to write. It's not just an excuse to write in my journal, but it literally, I'm going to take this and do something with it, which is also great. But it's a lot. And for me, I felt like I got too much stuff on my plate to want to pick up something else as new, but I also wanted to keep the energy. I want to keep that energy going on. I want to utilize that. I want to continue to be inspired by all the folks like Krister who are doing stuff and posting about it. And I wanted to kind of jump on that energy bandwagon. So one thing it is, I made this, and you're welcome to join. It's open. I have it set up as a jam, which means it's kind of like these jams are sort of usually they're kind of a short term, hey, do something in a set period of time, kind of fun challenges like, hey, do a dungeon in a weekend, or hey, write an adventure in 3 days kind of thing. This one is just I put it for the whole year. So it's from now until December 31st, 2023. But it's really just to give you a space or give myself a space, and hopefully other folks and 20 other souls have joined this to just work on projects. I have a community bit set up where you can share your progress. I have a thing about, hey, add something every day, and then someone else posted about, hey, what project are you working on? All that kind of fun stuff. If you feel like this might help you in terms of getting something done, you're welcome to join. The only submission in here is mine. I started this. Play it. Well, there's nothing really to play, but I'll pop this open. So this is for my way overdue zine. The kind of the last piece of the puzzle is a hex crawl to go along with the hex stuff I have going on, and I've just been sitting there just getting pushed off. So I'm finally using this. Hopefully, I'm trying to earmark to have it done this month. We'll see how that goes. But I'm using itch. Maybe I'll make it available to buy separately from the zine. I don't know for now, but what I'm using itch for right now, which I think anybody can do, is you could basically create a landing page. You don't It was weird a little bit because when you're setting this up, it says like, oh, do you want to make it for free or put a price on it? And I was like, I don't want people to buy it now, or like, because it's not what nothing's there. But I guess whatever price you put in doesn't seem to surface. Like you can see here, I think I put in $5, but it doesn't show up here because there are no files. As long as I'm not uploading files, project files, it's not gonna. You don't have to mess around with that. But what it does let me do is it lets me do like a quick development log. So I have a couple things I did. I've done 2 so far. One I did yesterday, one I did today, and then this is really my day 1 where I came up with this and put it on there, and then this is kind of my day 2 and my day 3. And I'm not numbering them on the days. I don't know. I'm trying to keep to the days because I think I can do things in small enough steps. For instance, today I just sat around and came up, spent maybe 20 minutes and came up with some place names, which I think is good. The idea being with all these things is really just do something a day. Originally, it was just, hey, a place name, or in terms of Dungeon 23, hey, a name of a room. Something little. A lot of folks are going way overboard, not necessarily overboard, but they're investing a lot more time and energy into their doing, which is great. But for me, it was just, hey, let me just come up with the names. Let me come up with this little bit of story kind of thing, and going from there. But I think that if you're looking for a place to kind of stage your development, might be a good option because it's free. You could just set up an account. You may already have an itch account in terms of buying games. I don't think there's any cost involved to it. You can just set up a little. I called my untitled starter hex crawl, and now I have a place to put that stuff. And then if you do mean to do something with it after the fact, then you've already got the landing page and everything set up. Frederick Gork says 2023 sounds like a cheeseburger sci-fi film. I'm not sure I know what a cheeseburger sci-fi film would be like. Would that be like like the what was that Attack of the Killer Tomatoes type movie, but it's cheeseburgers? I'm not sure. What do you folks got? So this is my stream where I basically ask you guys to ask me stuff. I mean, we can chat about things. I can delve into my backlog of stuff to see what there is. Fine, but I'm here for you. This is really your space, and I'm happy. That usually I do kind of more hex crawling stuff, but it doesn't have to be just hex crawling. It could be if you got other topics that are burning up your brain waves. Feel free to send them on over. How's that cyclic dungeon generator? Get rid of that. That's about it. Here's my other hex crawling kind of stuff. What's going on for you guys? Who's doing Hex23? I'm really curious to see the breakdown because there was Dungeon 23, and then quickly there was sort of morphed into some folks, or I guess splintered off into City 23, Hex 23. Hex 23 obviously is right up my alley. I think works really well. City 23, I'm kind of interested in because I'm wondering like what kind of city are folks building that it's like, oh, a year. Because for a mega dungeon, it kind of makes sense. I guess there's a mega city if you're doing, Mega City 1 or whatever it's called from Judge Dredd. Maybe you feel like that, but a year on a city just seems like, I don't know, too much. But I'm not sure what folks are doing, or if they're really going for like, no, I'm gonna have I don't know, what's I'm not trying to think. I'm trying to think of what's the big Forgotten Realms city, Waterdeep, and I'm like, I'm gonna have every business and every house on every block mapped, and maybe that's the thing. I'm not sure, but it seems like overkill a bit for me. All right, Perkins had a question. Have I run an episodic RPG sessions where each session is a one shot or similar? I have not. I have not done that. I can't say that I've done that, Perkins. I can easily see how it would work though, and I think ultimately, are you asking for it like is the question? So I haven't done it, so I can only speak from hypothetical situations. I haven't played in one either. I haven't played in one where we just played a one shot. Um, my first impulse would be that I could see it working very well in kind of a Conan Far from the Grey Mouser sort of thing. Is you come in, you have a fun adventure, you stop, and then we pick up later on, before, after in your characters. I suppose the one thing with leveling up is you'd be moving progressively further along in their careers because you're getting stronger as you play. But you just kind of like have your next adventure, and then you go on to the next thing and go on to the next thing. But I can't say I've actually done it. Christopher says it sounds a little bit like West Marches. Yes, except I'm guessing from episodic. There's a difference between episodic and a one shot, because a one shot would mean that it's a what they call a bottle episode. Everything is self-contained. If you imagine the X-Files, you had those Monsters of the Week episodes in which they come in, they deal with something, and it's kind of like you never talk about it again, or maybe maybe it comes up, but it has no relation to anything else. Versus the whatever the cigarette smoking man and that kind of overarching plot. So you have these bottle episodes, basically the whole game Monster of the Week is basically built off of that. You just go, you're doing this thing, move off, and maybe there's some character growth and some things that are happening and relationships are changing, but essentially the world resets after each one. They go into the small town and they find out what's killing people in the small town, and they fix it and they go on, and that small town thing never happens again, and it's just kind of done, and you're moving on to the next thing. I think it could easily work. I think the I wonder if over time if there would be a boredom, not boredom, but just kind of a sameness, which I think people have said with Monsters of the Week that you can kind of get just tired of it a little bit. And in Monsters of the Week, I think is does emphasize more about the relationships, things like that. I think I've only read it. I haven't played that one either, but I think that's definitely what I would want to emphasize because you're going to end up doing a lot of the same kind of things. It's like kind of like if you're running heists every week, right? You're gonna have the same steps. Okay, monster, monster does something. You're brought to the town. You do clues. You do something else, and then you confront the beast. Whatever, right? The formula. You go back and watch some X Files episodes. Go back and watch some of the things. They're all kind of the same. So what makes it interesting? What makes it different? One part is just the exoticness of the twist on the monster. Well, that's one thing, and then another thing are the relationships between the different characters. So your Mulder and Scully and Skinner and the whatever the other people over there, and then whatever relationships they have with the people in this particular town or agency or whatever they're dealing with in that particular episode. Those things. So those things become really important in a game. In something like Far from the Grey Mouse or Conan, it's all about the kind of visceral nature of it and the exoticness, the finding all kinds of weird. There's kind of some kind of twist, some kind of weird thing. Oh my gosh, the thing in the immense treasure in the Tower of the Elephant. It isn't a piece of jewelry or something. It's an alien. Oh, there's man-eating giant apes in the bottom of this tower. Something like, oh, shocking, right? But in terms of say your role playing game now, you unfortunately due to the fact that people have like 50, 60 years of all that material. How often do you how what can you do to really shock people in the way that maybe the people who first read Tower of the Elephant were like, "Oh my gosh, it's an elephant-headed monster." Now you're going like, "Well, they just have those in Magic the Gathering. I could play one of those in 5th edition." You know what I mean? It's just like that shock part isn't quite there. So you have to really emphasize some other stuff. Fergus says their games are so sporadic, they don't know when the next one will happen, so they want to try a one shot as a solution. I definitely think you try it. Maybe I would like to. It might be interesting to see Perkins if you can do kind of that mix of episodic and have a kind of some kind of campaign arc. I'm trying to think of a good example of one. I mean, there is the stuff like the X Files, right? So some things are episodic and they just go the monster of the week, and then there's kind of the plot episode kind of thing. I'm trying to think maybe of something like I don't want to say next generation Star Trek, maybe a little bit like Deep Space Nine would do, where they would mix in some kind of episodic stuff with sort of overarching stuff. They did a better job of mixing it as opposed to having just episode and them in all different buckets. I seem to recall them having a little bit more mixing and matching of content, but I think you could try the one shots though. I might Perkins, unless your players are really dead set and you are on playing a single system, that might be a fun way to try a bunch of different systems. Hey, today we're going to play Toon. Today we're going to play the old Marvel or new Marvel role playing game. Today we're going to play Monster of the Week. Today we're going to play Cthulhu. Today we're going to play whatever one and just have fun playing a bunch of different systems. And then you can it gives you a way to really test drive a bunch of stuff. Really, it's really going to depend on your players, but I think it's a good idea, especially if your players are not super invested in a particular campaign and aren't going to become invested in a campaign. Let's see. Frederick says for a game with long pauses and setup, like let's see. For a game with long pauses, setup like skyscrapers and sorcery has a perfect. Skyscrapers is sort of Groundhog's Day thing going. Okay, so I guess what he's saying is that I haven't heard of this game. A game called Skyscrapers and Sorcery may have maybe set up to kind of help or fit in that sort of time constraints or those just scheduling constraints. Frederick also says that White Lies is a great system for an X Files campaign. I just have not. I am so backed up on rules. There's so many rules I haven't read yet. Bullet Catcher says they're doing Dungeon 23, but only one room every weekday. I think it's a good thing, Bullet Catcher, actually. Give yourself some time to rest and get your mind going. I think it also helps if you're doing something simple. I'm really going to be curious in April how everyone's going to be going, because right now everyone's pumping out a lot of stuff. And some folks are going to be able to just rip this off for 365 days, whatever, straight. But I'm thinking that at some point the pace is going to slow, or people are just going to start updating or putting the updates up less. We'll see. I mean, now it's what are we, January 3rd, so everything is shiny and new. But I think building in those times to give yourself some space, even though really you only need to spend a minute or two. You don't really need to spend a lot of time, but I think there is also pressure, and I hope that people don't let it get to them. I can see where this pressure can build to keep up with the people who are running. Some people are off and they're just running in a dead sprint, and there's this internal pressure you can have, even if nobody's telling you anything, to try to keep up with those people who are putting out what looks like beautifully, professionally, drawn maps and stuff on their daily prompts, and like, oh my gosh, I got to keep up with them. But you got to keep to a pace that works for you. And even if it's one every other day, or it's only doing weekdays, or it's only doing weekends, I think, the idea is just to get something done in some kind of time frame. Just trying to stick to your schedule, I think, is a big thing. Just set your schedule and then just try to stick with it. Don't be overzealous in what you're trying to do. Perkins says setting a year project is good, but you can do well by setting the daily goal extremely low. Well, I think that was the original idea somewhat, right? Because it really was one room a day, and room originally, the way I don't say originally, but in the kind of the original post surrounding it, a room could literally just be the name of the room or empty, and maybe in draw. So the original concept did not entitle much more, did not envision, I guess, very much work. And I would even say you could ditch the mapping part and just put chamber 2 empty, connects to the the hallway and the entrance, whatever it is. Like, just write some connections, maybe say, you could make just a sentence about it and be done. So it doesn't really mean a lot of work, but as everything, people have taken to it with such enthusiasm, and right now have so much energy that people are posting a lot of stuff into just their days. And hey, God bless them, they could do it. But I think it can also mean that, and plus everything's on social media, right? So I'm still on Twitter, but I've been doing a lot more on Mastodon and the Fediverse. And you can follow hashtags. So I'm following all the Dungeon 23 and Hex 23 and City 23. So I see all the updates hitting, and it's great. But I can see how someone could take that and just feel pressure to try to keep up, and that pressure turns into a negative effect, which can stop someone from doing it, who might have done it if they could have just been left to their own devices. But because they're on social media, they're seeing it. Or you're, again, just you start going off at a dead sprint, and then you just run out of gas in however many days, weeks. Perka says their thing, have a random list of to do each daily effort can change a little bit. I think that was the other part. So that was kind of some of the stuff that some of the people who did alternative schedules, like mine and also others, was trying to give people a little bit more different daily stuff. Instead of doing a room a day, do a room and then a monster and then an item and then whatever. And then that kind of, and sure, you end up with maybe potentially less days at the end of it, but you've done more. It's kind of spreading things up. I mean, there's tons of ways to do it. I mean, I think ultimately just get something down on paper. And working towards something, and which is kind of why, for me, I wanted to say, hey, let me do finish it 23 to work on stuff I already need to work on instead of picking up new material. But it's great for new stuff too. Let's see. Bullet Catcher says they saw someone was upset with the Habanichi books they were told to use for Dungeon 23 because the book is very small and has a small amount of space to draw and populate the dungeon. I didn't know. I mean, I actually ordered one of those to see what they're like, and I think they are pretty small. There are different sizes, but I think the one that was suggested, but I should have it Thursday. I'll be able to see it on Thursday. I think the reasoning behind that journal is probably, one, it's small, so you can carry it around with you if you're someone who travels. and then it's got that graph, the kind of graph on one, the graph paper on one side and the entries on the other side, so you can kind of do that. Hey, you find the thing that works. I'm not gonna get mad at somebody. Oh, you gave me a size that's small. Well, small for you is large for somebody else. You know what? Maybe I'll see it. Maybe when it comes, I'll see it and I'll be like, yeah, the egads is too small for me. But I'm gonna get mad at somebody. Um, yeah, I think people. I mean, that's another part, right? People are taking the sketching part very seriously right now, and so you're seeing a lot of people really try to get in there and sketch. And like Ian just said, just collect your daily ideas and just have a space to kind of rough something out. Because with dungeons, that the spatial relationships, you want to figure out a way to say it somehow. And like I said, I think you could do it in a sentence. Room 15 feet square connects to hallway 1 and entrance, pit in the center of the floor, kind of something like that. You could just write it and you'd be fine. People want to draw it. So having the ability to draw a little bit's good. But I see people who are drawing, isometric, these beautiful isometric pieces, and I'm like, yeah, this is great. Hey, more power to you. But ooh, I can't do that. I couldn't do it if I wanted to do it. K5K. Yep, K5K's been posting stuff in the forums. Yeah, he's got a journal. What journal are you using, K5K? I have curiosity. Did you I don't remember if you posted the make and model of your journal. There's so many different ones out there. If you have a good stationery store, or some bookstores also have them, you can just go and they'll have a ton of these journals and you can check them out. You just want to find ones that have good paper, which is why people like the Japanese ones. Not the only ones, but they have nice thick paper that you don't get a lot of ink coming through, or you really have to put a lot of ink in. They just have better quality paper. I found that the moleskins, unless they've changed it, just don't have high quality paper, the thickness. And so you're writing on both sides of the piece of paper and you get a lot of bleed through. And I find that even though they're kind of famous and they were sort of the first of the old OGs, unless they've kind of upped their paper game, I would go with some different ones. The Japanese ones, I know, and then there's a German one, I think, or German. I don't know. That has like a German word. I can't remember. Are also good. And sometimes I'll have samples, so you can have a pen and actually write on a sample page from one. So check out those stores if you have a chance to go in person. Help support local businesses, and plus you just get to see and feel the journals, get the sizes you want, as opposed to looking at a picture on Amazon or somewhere and kind of guessing whether it's going to be the one you look for. Frederick Ork says, be like Deku and use a compost brand notebook. Yeah, I've seen those. Ah, yep. The KFFK has, yep. Look term, however you pronounce it. Look term. Yep, 1917. Those I found are good. I have more journals than I know what to do with and things, but I did want to see what this journal was because I guess I like seeing what they have. But yeah, those are good. And there are also these like rocket books, or they're like a like it's so these. I actually have one, but I can't find my pen. Where you can write on it, but then you can also it has an app to help kind of scan it in to help shortcut going from analog to digital. And you can use these, I think they're called fusion pens, but with an X pens, and you can go through and do stuff that way. I mean, I'm torn because I like the analog. I like writing it out. I like the analog feel, but there's no question that there are times that the digital is just super handy. I could be in the car and I'm not going to be able to sit and write and it be any at all neat or anything, but I can jot something on my phone in the notes app or something else, or Obsidian, or in Markdown something, or I could do it when I'm waiting, or on the subway. I could, not that I'm on the subway very much these days, but I can write something up that way. It's just the digital tools are so good. So anything I think to help bridge between having, or a way to have both kind of the digital and analog, and I don't really know what that is yet ultimately, but it's good. Plus, I think most people are gonna have to take these from analog into digital at some stage anyway. Ryan Smith says, should I start 3 days behind? Yeah, absolutely. You can make up 3 days, no problem. Or even if you don't make up the 3 days, don't worry about it. Oh, Perkins mentions Rhodia graph notebooks. Rhodias are good too. Yep, the French ones. The French also make good paper notebooks. let's see. What else is going on? Have I missed anything else? Frederick uses Excel tabs. I can't. I need to relearn some Excel foo for sure. Yeah, the 1917s bullet catcher mentions as a bullet journal. Yep, those will work. I mean, really anything will work. Anything you have. I think the thing is you have on hand. And someone mentioned kind of the fetish quality of some of these notebooks. There really is. No question. You know, if you just got printer paper, you know, your old, you know, laser printer or whatever, your home printer paper, or graph paper, or your old school notebooks. I mean, really anything will do. I think some things do help a little bit. Sure, having a dot grid or a square grid somewhere if you're going to be drawing out your dungeon helps. Sure, or having the dot grid or whatever. But ultimately, whatever you have, and then you know the digital versus analog thing is whatever tool is more comfortable. I end up using a mix of both, and I just haven't found the perfect way yet to kind of merge them because I end up having to reference different apps or different things to try to get everything together. But you know, the point is just to find the tool that's easy. If you use the tools you already have, if you don't have if you don't have a great need for another notebook because you have a bunch, then use one of the ones you have laying around. Nobody cares. Don't let anyone's fancy Japanese journal persuade you to buy something you don't need. Mr. says that dot grid is perfect. It allows for squares, hexes, and even isometric. Yeah, dot grid's handy. I saw someone who had gridded out, taken a dot grid and used some lines to grid out and to make hexes for like a hex map. It was pretty cool. Let me see if I can find the image for it. That was one thing I don't know very well is how to like design a hex if you don't have hexes already. How to do that? I can't say that I know how to do that. Can I find this link? Oh, and someone also had. I do have on my forum. I have to add some links, but I'm trying to gather some stuff. I have a forum on my forums, forums.hex.press. I have a thread for Dungeon 23 where I'm trying to put links. Someone had a good link also on Mastodon about making hexes from a mosaic filter in GIMP, which is a free tool, so you can make a hex overlay cheap and easy, which is good too. Frederick says that their Dungeon 23 is going to be using Paranoia for a system, faith in the computer clones, faith in the digital messiah. I like Paranoia. It's another one of the systems that I've read a bunch of times, but haven't ever had a chance to play. It's kind of on my bucket list. That should be fun. Ryan Smith says they enjoy pasting and taping in whatever paper material they end up drawing on. Frankenstein notebook is always more fun to look back at. Absolutely. And also, you also get those nice, you know, serial killer vibes. It's like you could end up with a book like out of the movie Seven. You know, you can end up on the FBI's most wanted list when you walk with that over to your local cafe or coffee shop to work. And this is iced oolong tea for the working man. Use B5 notebooks if that's what you have. Yeah, use whatever notebooks you've got. I can't ever remember which sizes the paper sizes are. You know, that's like B5, A5, A4. Like I know letter and I know legal. And what's the big one? Super legal. Whatever the one is basically is 2 legal pages. Is that 11 by 17? That maybe doesn't have a shorthand name. I don't know where that. I'll have to dig up that hex map again, or that hex using mosaic tool. But it was cool. Project Works as post-its. Yeah, you could use post-its. I mean, note cards for dungeon rooms is excellent because then you can just, if you have a flat space, you can lay them down and shuffle them and place them and figure out connections in a very visual sense if you want to use that. Like this one I'm using here just for this stream at the moment, but something like a tool like this is Ouija, but you could use anything else. You can write down all kinds of stuff. And what I like about it, if you're using digitally, is you have this, you know, massive whiteboard basically, and you just throw whatever you want on there. You can write on it. You can make notes, and you can make connections. And oh, I want some. You know, look, I've got a mix of text stuff. I've boxed this stuff together. I threw in a big hex map over here. I pasted in some maps over here. I got some other things over here. You can really just dump everything in there. And then label it, sort it out. Here I've got some lists that I've got, connected to stuff, and I've got it all blocked off into sort of a unit. You know, I've got some basically just inspirational pictures of things over here. Here's a couple of Isle of Dreads, some other stuff. Oh, thank you. Spriggan's Den. Whoa. I think I saved it. I wonder what happened. Did they did Dungeon 23 crash? I wonder if it crashed there because you can't even get to the homepage. I know I kept it in Pocket. Let me see if it's still some version of it is in. Let's see if I can log in. Let's see. Turn any map. Let's see, is it okay? All right, so I did save it. I'll where can I put this? I'll just read through the list here. Let me see. Let me shrink my size. Maybe I'll throw it into my forums since it seems like. So here it is. Oh, you can't quite see the whole thing, huh? Let's see if I can. Oh, that's it. Okay, basically, yep. That's so you get all 12 steps, even though let me see if I can scroll a little bit just to make it. Can I scroll? There we go. Okay, so here are the steps. Well, the Ian says this is why you get hosting that scales properly. Yeah, but I mean, to be fair, he posted that in 2019. I don't think he was expecting, or they were expecting, some kind of the surge from Dungeon 23 people. Who knows who his host is or their host is? So here are the steps. Open your image file. Open your image file of your map. 2, add a new layer. 3, open the mosaic dialog, which is through filters to distortions to mosaic. 4, make sure tile geometry is set to hexagons. 5, set a tile size to your preferred size of tiles. 6, set the tile height to 1, which removes the reflection effect. 7, set the tile neatness to 1, which makes orderly hexes. 8, set the tile color variation to 0 to make all the tiles blank. 9, set the tile spacing to 1 or higher if you want wider grid lines. 10, for the joints color, this will be the color of your grid lines. 11, light color. To remove shiny reflections on each hex, click on the color to open the light color dialog. Set the value for A to 0, or move the slider all the way to the left. Click OK to close the dialog. You can't disable the reflections, but this makes it completely transparent and therefore invisible. And then you click OK, and you apply the grid to the, I'm guessing he means layer, not player. So there you have it. And I will copy and paste these steps, and I'll throw it into the forums just so people can save it. Hopefully his or their site will come back online. And that's the thing is too, some of the stuff ends up being kind of walk it dead. Maybe it was free hosting. Maybe the person's not even doing it anymore. And someone dug up this thing and then, it just goes kaboom, but there's nobody even really around to fix it. I don't know. I don't know if what the deal is there, but I guess it goes to show if you're going to be putting something out there that might be super helpful to a bunch of people in this, that maybe throw on something like even just GitHub or get one of these big kind of scalable hosts as opposed to your own website, unless you're on, like Ian says, a very well scaling host. But the other thing is, oftentimes you're paying for all the visitors and things, so you might have a perfectly scaling host, but then you just ran out of your bandwidth, just blew through the roof. K5K says, "My starter hex looks cool. I just want to go exploring." Oh, thanks. Well, here I can. I suppose since we're doing hex stuff, I can walk through. So here's my hex. Or it's not a hex. It's more than one hex. Oops, I gotta. Hold on, let me get this properly in. This is my starting map. And how this ended, how this came to be is I was up in Massachusetts and my family, we were visiting the Norman Rockwell Museum. Norman Rockwell, a famous illustrator of Americana. Which actually is a pretty interesting museum. He did some other stuff too, which doesn't get as really as well known as his very famous Saturday Evening Post magazine covers that are very much seem steeped in kind of a really early to mid 20th century sort of Americana type stuff. But he did other things, especially in the 60s, which is really interesting, but you just don't come up a lot. But anyway, there's a floor, sort of a basement or subfloor where they have a little film about him that's just playing over and over again. Just gives kind of a biography, and there's a bunch of the covers for the Saturday Evening Post, and then there's an area where you can just kind of do sort of arts and crafts, do your starter, your have your family, your kids or whatever can draw up some stuff. So there were these pads. My daughter was drawing some things, and so she was like, "Daddy, I want you to draw something." So I said, "Okay." So I took the thing and I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Well, I need to do this. I need to do this map." So I do this map. Uh, I'm doing part of this untitled starter hex crawl. It's an hex crawl adventure. So it's the concept for me is not just here's some hexes. There is an adventure here, but it's one that's emphasizing the overland travel and not in the dungeon. The adventure is going to be basically the party going from this place over to this place and engaging with some hex crawl mechanics, hopefully along the way. You can notice this dashed line is a road. There is a road. There's going to be some dangers on the road, which hopefully will at least maybe not know if persuade is the right word, but at least intrigue some players maybe into going off for necessity purposes. Because kind of a not in the same vein to the run from Bree to Rivendell, but similar fashion that the road, yeah, it's straight, and if you follow it, you can't get lost. But there might be dangers on the road. Bad folk are on the road, kind of after you, or potentially to stop you, prevent you. So sure, you can take the road, but they're watching the road. So maybe you want to go off the road, and then going off the road leads you to some hopefully interesting possibilities, but you may be stuck on the road. And then hopefully there's enough stuff going on in here so that after the fact you could have some other adventures and some other things. Put some interesting spots in here so that you have some just post adventure adventures so that a GM could take this spot as a starting town, have this thing happen, and then afterwards could still maybe play in this area. So a person, what was their name? Because I don't want to was whoops. I don't want to. Who was it? Captain. It was Captain somebody. Hold on a sec. Let me look it up because I don't want to get it wrong, even though I just did. Oh, why I don't think of things before I decide to speak of them. I posted it in my Captain Nolan. There you go. Captain Nolan took my map. Brian Smith says the important question is, what did my daughter think of the drawing? She liked it. She always likes that stuff. She liked it indeed. So then Captain Nolan came along, and I think I put it in here. Made this NASA version, or at least more digital version. What I think I'm going to do is I like the hand drawn look, but I think I'm going to take this version and then I'll draw over it a bit and kind of keep it a little bit sort of have that kind of personal appeal, but same map, different stuff. So the my thinking along here, I think of the elements that I want. I try to think in what's realism's not quite the right word, but there is an aspect of that. Like I think of where are you basically placing your settlements, rivers. So I wanted to feature a river. Hills, and I like to think of I do like to think about, well, let's get some variety in the terrain here. It's not all going to be just grasslands in the river. I want to give me some hills, give me some forest. I think of the swamp, give me some swampy areas. Is probably not a coincidence that a lot of the areas where I spend time when I'm in Massachusetts is in basically this kind of terrain, which is basically hills and valleys. Also, like outside New York is like this too. The Hudson Valley, it's lots of Hudson River, obviously, but lots of smaller rivers that will feed into the Hudson and reservoirs and things like that. But then hills, like there's hills, and then there's valleys, and of course there are all kinds of little towns nestled in all the valleys along these little rivers and things. So I feel like a lot of my the first kind of terrain that comes to mind is this kind of hills and valleys. So you almost think of it that the hills might extend back in here, valley comes out, and also you find that too, like near where I tend to be in the Massachusetts, we find all these areas where, say, the river will come in and hit an area, and it'll just you have this kind of swampy, marshy area, and then it'll spit out again. So, and it gives me another type of terrain. I like having swamps. I like having all these different types. So you get a kind of a nice variety of terrain. And plus, especially for kind of a beginner hex crawl, I want to have these different elements that a party could potentially experience. So it could be that one thing I thought about is well they could take the road and they can go and there's going to be dangerous stuff on the road, but they could deal with that and make their way along it. The road, but it's a little bit longer because it's going around the swamps, it's going around the area. Then there's this. It is a choke point when they hit this bridge here, right? And someone I think mentioned, I can't remember who it was like, oh, you could have basically kind of like in Fellowship of the Ring where they're making a run for the bridge or somebody holding the bridge against them, that sort of thing. So you have this nice, could be an interesting area here. Well, the party can bypass that if they decide they could take the river down, but then they hit these swamps. And of course, what's going on in these swamps? Can they stay in the center course with the river? Do they kind of float out in the swampy areas and get lost a little bit? And of course, swamps are dangerous. They could just try to cross over and then get over these grasslands and into these forests down here, or just sticking on the grasses. I want them to have a lot of different angles for approach, different things, and there'll be different aspects out there. I haven't decided yet how much of the map players I want the players to have versus, say, the GM to have. But those are end of development questions. And what I did actually today, Krister says, do I make the roads safer than the surrounding terrain? He does. Their roads have their own encounter tables featuring more travelers and patrolling guards, perhaps. They tend to be safer and faster. But there are some bad things that are probably going to be in the road than not. So you're not going to tend to find bandits in the middle of the swamp because why? Why are bandits out in the middle of the swamp? Bandits might be parked on the road. In this case, they're going to be different dangers because there are some antagonists here who want to stop the party, and their main focus is going to be on the road because that's the obvious way to go. So if the party decides to be obvious, then they're going to be in the road and probably have to deal with those antagonists more. If they go off road, it's going to be more animals, monsters, stuff they might stumble upon, and then there'll probably be some mechanisms in there for the bad guys to say, hey, wait a minute, they've gone off road, and then maybe we'll try to catch up somewhere, right? So, but yes, I like to think of the roads as being somewhat safer, at least, because you're not going to put a road through some kind of hellscape. You're not. If this area here was so super dangerous, you're not putting a road there. Like how? Well, no one could make the road because they keep getting killed or eaten or whatever. So the roads, I think, have to represent at least somewhat safer. But safer in what way? Yeah, the dragon's not going to get you on the road necessarily, maybe, or the whatever. But maybe there are bandits and there are local lords who are taxing people on the roads, and all kinds of other stuff could be there that's not helpful. So maybe just say the challenges are different. You have a different set of challenges when you're on the roads. Is maybe a good way to put it. Mars Anonymous says roads are safer as long as you're a law-abiding citizen who's always paying the taxes on all the treasure you found. Well, that helps. Or greasing the palms of everybody who's decided to set up shop and pay the toll. Because I think I'm going to have some smaller villages. I'm thinking of having some kind of rest area here where these two roads come together, and there'll probably be some keeps along here. This is kind of the main town, but there are going to be some other people. So there might be people here setting up shop and saying, oh, okay, you're passing through my land, pay this much or pay this much, whatever. So it's there, whereas here it's going to be more or less uninhabited from most settlements perspective, but monsters and other beasties might be hanging around there. So yeah, different challenges. Let's see. Brian Smith says could get forced off the bridge and in the river to double back and search the other side or something too. Yeah, absolutely. There are lots of different ways it could go, which is kind of the fun of the hex crawl. Is anything could happen. I'm pondering whether to have some kind of time constraint just to have folks focus and keep some focus on for progression. But I haven't decided yet. I like having some time pressures, and I think the fact is that after this is over, you can come back and keep and work on those other things. You know, you're not leaving it behind. Basically, what I'm saying. Hey, once you finish this, you're still in the area. It's not like, oh, now you got to run to this area. It's like, no, you're done. So you could easily have, okay, we finished, we got here, we did our business. Now we need to go back and, hey, oh, this person said that there's something over here worth checking out. Whatever, you know, you can really there'll be stuff in all of here to check out, and so if the party finds them, that's good. They can get rumor of things, that's good. You know, there'll be stuff to do after the fact. So hopefully it'll end up being a starter area and not just run that one mission and leave. Lawrence was going to ask, yeah. So the idea is that they're traveling with an NPC who claims. So this is a town, and up here it's probably a town too, but there's an abbey, and so there's like an acolyte, you know, low level priest type who claims to have received visions that the abbot over here needs to hear, and he needs to get them there in a certain period of time because the visions speak to some horrible event that will befall them, you know, before a fortnight is out. Oh, yeah, in a fortnight, this is going to happen. So I need to get the message to the abbot. And the way it's set up is that he insists it has to be him, not send it by pigeon, not do a thing. It's like, no, I have to go in person. This is like a divine. He's been, you know, the gods are speaking, or the god is, or their god is speaking through them, whatever god this priest is. It's, you know, so it's imperative that he gets there, not, oh, you tell me and I'll tell him. No, like he needs to get there and talk to him. And so that's kind of the impetus. And then I have this kind of idea that this NPC is actually not particularly reliable. And my idea is, and I don't know if it'll work or not, is that as a GM, you'll be able to decide whether this person's telling the truth or whether they're actually part of the conspiracy to do the bad thing. I'm going to try to leave some stuff over there so you can play it either way. But the idea is that the party may not, you know, if all the information that I'm planning to put in there is kind of gets out, that the party might end up thinking like, is this person for real? Are they not for real? Or you know, kind of what's going on, which I think will also be interesting to see how they kind of play it. Do they play it either way? But there's the other thing is that there is the abbot, word will be out that there is something going on. And so there's going to be like a reward for information presented to the abbot about stuff that's going on. So my idea is that if the party suspects that this lowly acolyte person is actually part of the problem, then taking them to the abbot as a prisoner works just as well as escorting them there as this, prophesy, speaker of prophecy. So hopefully it'll work either way. Because the other part is, well, what if they kill him? You know, they think it's because that often happens. Oh my gosh, we think this NPC is bad news. Just slit their throats and be done with it. And sure, then you could still make the case, hopefully, that to either get proof of this person's conspiracy or do whatever to take him over here, because then you get your reward. Either that or run away and become bandits, because you're going to have to explain it somehow. You know, at least that's going to be my idea. We'll see how it all works out. I got a lot, I have a lot to do, but I'm in this vein of dungeon and hex and city 23. I'm just trying to get a little bit of the day at the time. So like today, I just sat down and put some names out there, names of places. The Goldenroth River, the Red Shelf Hills, the Old Sump is a swamp, the Beowwold is one forest, I have the Hartswold is another forest, Shepton is the one town, and Munkirk Abbey is the other spot. Right, so it says, or the god transfer the visions to the player who killed him. Yeah, if you want to play that this person is legitimate, then yeah, a lot of bad things. It could be very interesting what happens to the party if they decide to kill this messenger or messenger of a god, right? That would be bad. And then, so I wanted to put it in there because you could just have some fun. You could even, my idea is that you could even make a decision kind of in the moment as you're playing through. Like, you don't need to pre-decide. Just if it becomes really interesting one way or the other, depending on what the players are doing, you can say, oh, because the person's a little bit of a, they're not all there. They're very They're very sort of shifty. They have weird ideas of things. They're very insistent on certain things, which could lead you to think that they're eccentric because they are in fact kind of crazy in the sense that, oh, this person is communing with a god and therefore his mind is not right, or this person's a charlatan and they're trying to fool everybody. You know, the K5K says, "No, run away and become bandits." So many parties end up basically this. Absolutely. And there'll be, and I will have, like I said, these are the main spots, right? These two things on the map are the main spots, but they're going to be, I imagine that this area here is all under, is essentially a lot of it is, especially along the roads and these kind of places, is settled. So here, where there's going to be maybe an inn and some kind of way station, there probably is some kind of manor house, keep, castle, something over here. Certainly, the abbey is not unprotected. There's going to be something there. This is a walled town, and some of these other points. So they're going to be, they'll have to deal with some law and order types who may not take kindly. And the idea here is that the I don't know, Lord, Duke, King, whomever it is that's here, that's kind of will put them on the mission. It's not going to be forgotten about. So if they decide to just flat out kill this guy and run away, it's they do make, there is communications between these two sites. They will be made aware that might be even another sort of thing is to say, oh, I'm telling the abbey that you're coming. The abbot will know that you're coming. So if you don't show up in 5 days, whatever you say you're going to be there, then you better have some good explanations. Otherwise, folks will be after you. And Bryce bet they will come bandits who set up in the swamp. Yeah. So you can keep reusing this adventure, and each party that turns to banditry will just end up populating a hex in the swamp. So you can have bandit wars. I mean, I'm all for it. I think that's kind of what it's all about, right? Is you give the party the choices, the latitude to come through, or also to kind of the rope to hang themselves if that's what they want to. And that's kind of what it's all about, and that's what I want to have. I don't want it to be, hey, this thing falls apart if the party does one thing or the other. Now, of course, I can't write reams of material for every different possibility. If they decide to come bandits in the woods, then you just break out, you just continue with it as a hex crawl, and you're gonna have to figure it out from there, basically. But I did want to have it be, I want the scenario to be able to survive if they decide to kill the NPC, basically. If they take on the mission and decide to bail, they just deal with the consequences of that and play on. If they decide to kill the guy, continue to play on. There's just consequences. I just don't, I don't want to leave the referee high and dry. We'll see. We shall see. Bryson says, land of the murder hobos. Yeah, this could be down here. Plain of the murder hobos, where they just try to stay far enough, keep the swamps and the hills between them, and maybe this forest between them and the forces of authority. It could work. But we'll see, because I'm my goal is to try to have it done by the end of the month. That's my goal. We'll see how far I get, but I am enjoying the daily. I don't know if I'm going to keep doing daily updates. Right now it makes sense, or it's easy for me to do because I'm doing not involved things. At some point I'm going to have to I feel like I'm going to want to get more stuff down. Maybe that I'll want to break off and say, okay, I mean, I suppose I can always just put notes. I don't know. I don't have it all figured out. Well, I am enjoying the process, I guess, which is really what this Dungeon 23 stuff's all about, right? Find a process that you can do on a consistent schedule and then try to do it. And that's going to be my big takeaway from this. And hopefully at the end of this year, when I'm doing one of these and it's January, knock on wood, January, whatever, 2024, I can look back and say, yeah, I really got into some really great and productive processes having gone through Dungeon 23, Hex 23, finish it 23, whatever 23 we're doing. Perkins says mixing things up can keep the players on their toes. Yeah, that's why I like kind of keeping it up in the air and not, at least in terms of NPC. Like I want it to be able to be either way. I'm not going to say he totally is or isn't. I'm going to leave it up to the GM. I'm just going to put a lot of evidence out there that you can play either way. And there will even be some stuff that I have in mind that happens when you have the basically what my idea is that if you get you take them all the way here and you have the audience then depending on what you've decided as the referee for if this person is for real or not will determine kind of what happens there. So I have some ideas about. So there's a couple different ideas. I haven't totally figured them out, but I'll lay them out there. One of them is that yes, this person has been touched by a divine power, but it's not the divine power he thinks. It's some kind of infernal power that has tricked them into thinking that they're divine, and that they're carrying around this scroll that they wrote in their sleep or whatever, and it's actually it's actually like a weird, like he's got to be in a trance basically to read it because it's in some kind of weird code. And that was one of my sort of things to help with the party. Like if the party ends up somehow either because they've killed the guy or they've tied him up and gone through his stuff, they'll find a little like bronze cylinder that he's put inside his when he did his kind of dream writing, he put inside there. And the dream writing looks like it could be gibberish or looks like it could be a code. And it's up to the players when they're going to look at it whether they're going to think it's one way or the other. So if they cast detect magic on it, it will definitely have magic qualities. One of my ideas is that if you get all the way to the Abbey and you decide that yes, this is like, if it is like the demon possessed, it's like this demon angle, then what'll happen is when he reads the scroll, it'll let loose like a fireball and like just try to kill everybody with fire. So it'll literally be like he put like a weird like spell scroll, and the guy reads it and just poof, takes out the Abbey. It's like their little way of sneaking in and a little like a assassination. Take out the abbot. The things I haven't decided are if I'm going to go that route, is that because he knows or was it done unknowingly? Because with the demon or whatever taking on the form of the god through him, it's kind of like he's like a patsy. He doesn't know he's being used, but he is anyway. That was one idea. And the other idea being that he knows exactly what it is and that he's just doing the same thing. He's one of these conspirators. He wants to get close to the abbot, gets close to the abbot, reads the scroll, lets loose like some kind of powerful fireball type spell and just wipes everybody out. That'd be the one thing. And then the second thing is that there's going to be some other attack on the Abbey. And that's also like evidence. It's also something that's in the acolyte's possession. And if the players find it and they confront him, he'll say that he found it. And that's kind of, he's taking that to the abbot as proof. However, on the flip side, it's written like to a fellow conspirator. It's not written like, oh, we're coming to burn down your castle. It's like, hey, tell agent, whatever, like fellow agents, we're gathering here to do this thing on this day. So he'll say like, no, I found this thing and I'm trying to get it to the abbot as proof. Or is he carrying around because he's someone that's being addressed in the letter? See, so I'm trying to give these kind of like, ooh, is it one way or the other? Like, which way is it? So we'll see how it goes. I got some, the K5K likes the unknowing patsy. Could be. Yeah, I haven't figured out. And like I said, I might have some options. I want to give some options there. If I can do it in a way that doesn't muddy the waters too much, make it too confusing. I'll give some options for how to play it. And then with some hints for the party can pick up on. Because it's only in a couple elements. It's like if you ransack the guy's stuff, you'll find a scroll that reads as magical, but the script is kind of incomprehensible. You'll find this message that either he's telling the truth, that he found it and it's just a proof, or it's proof that he's a conspirator. But these are also things that if you decide he's a conspirator, these are things that you'll want to take. You'd want to take to the abbot to get your reward and all that stuff. So I'm hoping that you find all this stuff and maybe your motives for going to the abbot or however your relationship with this character changes, you're still going to want to go to the abbot to finish. But of course, if you don't, you don't. Hey, Gasher, you came right at the end. Any other questions? Bergen says that getting lore and information the players can be tricky at times. They've had new players trust 100% of what NPC said. Yes, Perkins, I hear you completely, which is why I'm putting notes in there for hopefully the referee to play this person that's kind of shifty and not looking people in the eye and all that stuff. But the thing is, you can still play it through, even if they decide to take everything at face value. It comes down to you as the referee. You can either play it and say that, okay, this person, it is what it is. Because you could play it, it's exactly what the guy says it is. He has his prophecy, he's going to read it, and then here's his proof, and then you can just run it very straightforward. or you can run it where this person is either a patsy or they're part of the conspiracy. It's kind of up to you. But that the adventure does not depend on the party either trusting or not trusting the NPC. They're kind of going to be given their kind of, their mission, so to speak. It just comes to their relationship to the mission. But if they do delve into it, there'll be some, I think, hopefully, some interesting conversation between the players over what to do about this guy. What if the guy's asleep and they decide to go through his satchel and they find this stuff? Like, what do they do? Like, those are the kind of things I want to make kind of interesting. And when the abbot, see, one of the things is I want the guy to insist on taking the road. He's going to say for speed, but the road is also be where the really nasty things are. So once the party starts to get maybe a hint, or if they discover that there are nasty things there in terms of the antagonists, these opponents, do they then think, is this guy trying to walk us into traps, or or is this guy just an idiot, or what is he? So I want to put the questions in their head, but it doesn't depend on them delving if they choose not to. All right. Anything else? Oh, Krister mentions about their encounter tables. They have a 12-slot encounter table with the more dangerous things near the bottom of the list. During the day, they roll a d6 and get the less dangerous encounters. During the night, they roll a 2d6. They might also get more dangerous ones. I like that. I like it. All right, I'll give you one more moment. If you could give a thumbs up on your way out, if you're bailing, cheers. That would be awesome. Brian Smith says, what are you hoping to get done daily? Like, what amount of work per day are you sitting out? Not too much, just something, Brian Smith. Really, just something. Like here, I just did some names. That's it. I'm not going to, I have other things that are mulling around in my brain, and I might write them down because I don't want to forget them. But I feel like I've done my work for the day. Tomorrow, it might be, maybe I'll do something, generic. Like, oh, here's the override. Here's the encounter, whatever my encounter mechanic I'm going to use for my wandering monsters for the entire region. Or I might do here something else. But I think, obviously, if you got inspiration, like if you got a lot to say, like here I am talking to you guys about the plot and this thing, I could go and write some more stuff. That's all good, right? But if I didn't have that, I'm not going to, I think the idea is don't force yourself to try, I got to get 5 pages out. Just, you got something, write it. I think the thing is you just want to make some progress, whatever that means. For me today, it's just some names. I went through, got some names. If I'd run out of gas after the first 3 names or whatever, or even if I just gotten 1 name, that would have been fine. I want to make just kind of forward progress, I think, every day of some sort. Brian Smith says they're not in need of a mega dungeon, so I might just do a room a day and get a few dungeons done. Yeah, you can totally. Brian Smith, if you check out my hashtag Dungeon23 helper, also on itch, I have some procedures in there for just doing regular dungeons, but kind of a dungeon a month, or spending a month on a dungeon. If you want to try that out, it's got a lot more structure than the generic hashtag Dungeon23, but you might find it useful. Some folks, I think, like the structure. Some folks don't need it. Well, all right, everybody. I'll be back, I suppose, tomorrow. Should be back tomorrow with something or other. Feel free to follow along. And hey, like on the forums, if you go to forums.hex.press, I'll just go there now. Forums. You will see I've got, well, this is that, but I've got my Dungeon 23 discussion hub where I'm posting stuff. I posted these things. The K5K posted some stuff that they're doing. I posted some tools. I've got that. I'll also have some, let's see, way up here, I've got a list of stuff. I'll be adding more stuff to these as well. So come hang out. If you need something, we're also on Mastodon. I haven't been updating with Twitter so much. I've been doing more on Mastodon, but if you check out the different hashtags for all these challenges, you'll find tons and tons of folks pushing up their updates. Only follow them if you feel like that'll help you. If you feel like it's going to hinder you, then it's probably better to stay off of it. I debate back and forth whether I want to really see everything. Sometimes I really want to see it, and other times I'm like, I don't want to see it. I go back and forth. Anyhow, all right, folks. Game on, everybody. Hey, good luck with your hashtag Dungeon23, hashtag Hex23, hashtag City23, or hashtag anything 23, or my own hashtag Finish It 23. Let's get some stuff done this year, right? I mean, that's cool. I think we can all agree on that. Cool, everybody. Game on. and I will talk to you later. Bye now.